Hello my friends, Bogdan is here and today I'm gonna come up with a little more unusual topic. So today is 29th of January and yesterday here in France there was something big in the news where Jean-Luc Mélenchon, this is a socialist leader, he was a candidate in presidency campaign over the two times in the past. So he came up with a comments on recent situation where another French, Bernard Arnault, so he was recognized as the wealthiest man in the world. You probably have heard about it. So he overpaced the Tesla's owner, Elon Musk. So on this occasion yesterday, Jean-Luc Mélenchon said that we are close to, we are thinking that being billionaire, being a rich, in his own words, being rich is immoral. So it's not moral to be rich because the one who accumulates fortune is doing this at the expense of others, and he's taking this fortune from others. As is like verbatim, this is in his own words. So my topic here for today will be, is being rich is immoral, and what is the implication of this idea in the context of France, of United States, and also in the context of Russia and Ukraine war. So Jean-Luc Mélenchon is a person who has taken this case personally. He said this is an affaire personnelle. So he was attacking Bernard Arnault in the past, and now he is taking it to another level because he go on and says just yesterday that rich on the whole are responsible for the misfortune of the poor. This is quite a twist here in France because in 2027 Jean-Luc Mélenchon is considered as one of the biggest contenders. He might win a presidential campaign. He's got good chances because socialist movement here in France is very strong. So this person, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, says that rich are responsible for the misfortune of the poor, and now rich don't even hesitate to display its parasitism as a class. So they take away the juices from the whole society and don't hesitate to express it, to manifest it in public. So the overall history of France has been many times confronting the issue of inequality of the rich and poor, and from the times of French Revolution, the question of morality, is it agreeable, is it okay, is it agreeable to demonstrate the wealth? Is it good for society? Do you, as a wealthy people fit within a society? So these are questions that has been very, very much in the focus of public attention. So now France is more of a country with a middle class or lower middle class. There are not, except for Paris, obviously, people do not tend to demonstrate the wealth. And the taxation system here is built as a socialist state, because Jean-Luc Mélenchon, as a person who admires the political course of François Mitterrand, a big president of France in the beginning of 90s, the socialist president, and they have made this progressive taxation system, which means the more you earn, the more you have to pay in taxes. And it is already here in France, but Mélenchon goes on to say that we now have to reduce the total labor work time to 32 hours a week, from 40 hours a week. We have to put even a greater tax burden on the most wealthy one. And this is the sensational idea of him, we have to cut away all the earnings that exceed 400,000 euros. So if you make more than 400,000 euros per year, we take away this money from you. This is a very interesting also twist, because it means that there's no actual sense to earn a lot of money, because either you will have to pay a great taxes, or even the government would take away the money from you, in the idea of Mélenchon. So the central argument here in his discussion, in his debate with Bernard Arnault, the owner of Louis Vuitton and something group, so the wealthiest person up to the date on the planet, is that it is immoral. So immorality argument stays here, and Mélenchon says that what actually does Bernard Arnault sells? We all know what actually he sells, but he questions, he interrogates. Does he sell a vaccine from cancer? Does he actually produce some great medicine? No. What he produces is goods, is a vanity goods, luxury goods, starting from clothes to champagnes and so on, which are only designed to make their owners stand apart. So they actually would say, hey, I'm an important person. You must give due treatment to me. I'm an important person. This is what Bernard Arnault sells. And actually, this is a very good point, because here in France, people are not really they are really concerned with public goods. So it is really important what contribution you give to the society. So what you give, you have what you may expect in return. Mélenchon, in his life, he's not a poor person himself. Obviously, he has declared a real estate heritage of 1.4 million euro. But his political view and his financial estate, I don't think they contradict much. He's not a billionaire. So the overall idea goes that the France has to be a land without billionaires. So millionaires, given the prices on real estate here, are all over the place. There are lots of people who have more than 1 million or several millions in euro each, especially in the real estate, especially in Paris, so it's obvious. But France has not to, is not going to be a land for billionaires. This is the idea. And in this context, I would ask a question: if the immorality argument stays strong in the general context of what we see now in 2023. As I come from Ukraine, I flew from the war and now live in France. It's especially interesting for me to put it in the context of Ukraine situation. My claim is that the the capitalism trajectory of Ukraine, and also most of the post-socialist republics, so the countries that came out of USSR. So the capitalist trajectory was a fallacy. So it's not what people wanted, and this trajectory in itself has the roots of this tragedy, the war that's coming up on us right now. I'm saying that a corruption in Ukraine kills, and it kills all this. It has been killing people all the time, all from the beginning, because we started up with about 50 or even 52 million persons, and just before the war, in the previous year, we have had something 38 million people living in Ukraine. So it's a great difference. We probably lost about 12 to 14 million people over 30 years of the country's independence alone. Nobody talks about it. Nobody gives a good account. There's been a ever rising relocation from Ukraine to other Eastern European countries, Poland and so on, but the fact stays the same. We also have lost a bigger portion of our GDP, and the country obviously become less well less sustainable than it came out of the USSR. So the course, the trajectory that many countries have taken after the collapse of USSR has been erroneous. So this was an error to catch up on the capitalism trend and to try to actually build a real capitalist state like in UK or in the US back in the land of USSR countries. It was in my view, it gave a ground for corruption, for a loss of a greater part of moral focus of the society. It also has given a counter effect in the form of Russian state machine, the dictatorship, because effectively people in Russia have been witnessed these neoliberal reforms. They have seen this face of capitalism in the early 90s, and they didn't really like it, so they voted for a stronger state, for more social or paternalistic state, and this is when Vladimir Putin actually appeared. So we all have been, in my opinion, we all have been really injured by this rise of capitalism on the grounds of post-Soviet Union states, and we almost all have witnessed a greater upsurge of corruption, political corruption, and the overall corruption in the public sphere. So it gets to the point that we must say that corruption kills. We have lost a lot of people even before the war, and now in the time of war, we are still losing lots of people due to corruption in military and so on and so on. But you may contradict that corruption is not only evident in the capitalist state. It's true, yeah. But what I am saying that the big money morality that comes with capitalism and that starts to be intrinsic in this capitalistic states. So this big money morality makes a corruption fatal. So in the European Union, in France, corruption also exists, but the big money morality is not in place. They have lots of religious morality, they have green morality, they have mutual responsibility morality, they have ecological, I mean green, and also morality, the quality of life morality. This is maybe the most dominant thread of morality. But when big money morality stays strong, it has an imminent ability to kill off other kinds of morality, and it will become a dominant one. So, and it is something that makes this type of corruption fatal. So I'm saying that corruption that comes from capitalism states and that settles down so deep, it is going to the core of all the public morality, and it actually leaves nothing except for itself, for the hunt of big money. See, if you have no other morality, what I mean here by morality is that this is actually a habit of the way of life of the population, of the society. So if you have no other habits in terms of how we do things, this is morality. So then the hunt for big money will eventually kill off other habits, and it will dominate here. So it's actually, in my opinion, it brings to the idea of those betrayals, the people who would betray and who would help Russians to seize part of the territory, the people who would give away the maps of minefields for money. This is something that has been evident in the first days of the war, and I give a clear attribution of these actions to the big money morality. So it's clear to me that people who did this did it for money, not for a big love of Russia and so on. So getting back to the Mélenchon idea, I think there's no, and putting it in the context of Ukraine, I think there's not one person in Ukraine except for several oligarchs or very rich people. So not one person in Ukraine who would say I don't support it. I think it's clear that the huge amount of population, now that the people are getting poorer and poorer every day, would support it if someone from Ukraine would say these words. And so you could not even easily throw away the Mélenchon arguments out of a pure reasoning. There's nothing wrong with what Mélenchon suggests. But if you would try to, as many of you would try to say, well, this is not the case, capitalism has nothing to do with vices of people, and we all have the single entry starting points. We have to build ourselves as our lives as we can. So there's nothing wrong with capitalism. There's something wrong with you personally, or people as a whole. But obviously, this kind of discussion stays on the very morality argument. So if someone labels, like Mélenchon, if someone labels another person or a group of persons or society class as immoral, so it probably helps him to open the Pandora box, from which, even in the single public domain, from which there will appear very unpredictable results. So it will start away a tyranny, because if someone is moral and others are not, so that someone will be supreme, and he will try to rearrange the whole society's structure according to this new morality. And it is a tyranny when a small group or a bigger group would try to rearrange the whole society in the name of new morality. And a tyranny is also bad. So the people who would oppose to the Mélenchon argument and say that there's nothing wrong with capitalism, in the core, in the heart of the arguments, they would probably try to think about the tyranny argument. So it's not the capitalism that bad, but this is the very idea that there's an ideal society model that is bad. So these people would probably call back to the communist arguments and say the French people love communists, has loved them from long ago, and we all know how a communist killed millions of people. So this is the problem with the big ideas, with the dominant morality that kills, not capitalism. So I believe this is a good thing to think about. It's probably a place for a strong discussion. But to wrap it up, my idea that this fresh case of Mélenchon and his attribution of and his attitude toward a citizen of France, Bernard Arnault, who's the wealthiest man on the planet, and his Mélenchon's words about France shall not be a land for billionaires. So the very heart of this morality argument looks very strong right now in the year of war, in the year when we see lots of people are feeling helpless, and the overall economical pillars of the world are shaking. So it obviously is something very strong and appealing here, and I invite you to probably share your ideas, how you think. In my opinion, as I was saying, this is quite strong argument, and I don't believe there's nothing wrong with it. And lots of people, especially in the distressed condition like in Ukraine and elsewhere, would gladly go for this agenda, but somehow it's not coming up on us or on other people in Russia and Ukraine and the Kazakhstan, or even in the Eastern European countries. So it's not really coming up. It's not really something for them. It is coming up on France here, but we can still discuss it and try to address the arguments of whether or not it's being immoral. It's moral to be a billionaire here in YouTube. Try to discuss it, especially when we have good ideas to share with each other. Thank you for watching, and keep in touch.